Hello, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. Fearing for their loved ones, we meet the Yorkshire families whose relatives have lost their homes in the Turkey-Syria earthquake.
Lost the house, lost everything, and just waiting for people to help.
We'll also speak to the Yorkshire aid worker en route to the disaster zone to help. Also tonight, cleaning up the air we breathe. Sheffield prepares to join Bradford and York by introducing a clean air zone. Ryan Reynolds, where are you? No sign of the Hollywood heartthrob as his team Wrexham faces Sheffield United in the FA Cup. And what happens when hookers and clickers get together? All will be revealed.
Lots of sunshine to come tomorrow, very pleasant conditions indeed. How long will it last? Join me to find out.
Hello, good evening. Families and businesses across Yorkshire have started gathering relief to send to the areas affected by the earthquakes in Turkey. Now, more than 6,000 people have died in Turkey and Syria, and that number is expected to rise as rescuers search frantically for survivors in collapsed buildings. In a moment, we'll speak to a charity worker from Batley who's on his way to the affected areas to help. But first, Phil Connell has been to meet families in York fearful for their loved ones.
At this Turkish barber's, haircuts today have been few and far between. Ali, who owns the shop in York, has spent most of the day desperately trying to contact his family, all who live close to the epicentre of the devastating earthquakes in Turkey. Thankfully, all have survived, but they've lost everything, and attempts to rescue them are now being hampered by snow.
Everywhere closed. His road is closed, but for snow, and can't contact anybody. No electric, no gas. Lost everything. Lost the house, lost everything, and just waiting for people to help.
Thousands who survived the earthquake are now sheltering in tents in freezing conditions. They include relatives of Dr. Ahmed Khalil from North Yorkshire, who lectures at the University of York.
People in these times do help each other, get together. It is something similar, for example, to what happened in York in 2015, the floods. They came together and they were helping each other.
Across the UK, Turkish communities have already raised thousands of pounds for those in need. And in York, the aid relief programme's being supported by one businessman who settled here from Turkey 25 years ago.
5,000 people has lost their life, and more than 50,000 people is injured. And this is just for today. This is the second day. This night is going to be minus 11 degrees. And think about the babies.
The full impact of the earthquakes won't be felt for many more days. Events unfolding thousands of miles away, but still affecting the lives of many people here. Phil Connell, BBC Look North, York.
That death toll of 6,000 and rising is hard to comprehend, isn't it? Suhey Sufi lives in Batley and he works for Zyma. It's an international relief and development charity. Now, he was in Jordan working with refugee support, but he's now been redeployed to the disaster zone. He's en route to Turkey by car. I spoke to him a little earlier.
We have a lot of aid distributions that we do in Gaziantep, in Semilurfa, and Takya. These are areas which has a large number of refugees at the moment, and we have a lot of work and projects that we do in that area. And as soon as we heard about the devastating situation in those southern Turkey areas, we decided that, you know, with our existing presence there, that we need to be deployed as soon as possible to respond to the earthquake.
And what is it you'll be taking over there?
So at the moment, so literally about an hour ago, we had some further news from our field partners in those areas. And we've been told that they've run out of a lot of resources like food, water, hot meals, baby items, sanitary items. So there's a lot of items that are just out of stock. And the local organizations that were facilitating these things, the warehouses, they're literally rubble. Okay, so now we've had to change our strategy. So we're going to buy a lot of the items from Istanbul and Konya, and we're going to be sending truckloads of those items tomorrow afternoon. So I'll be reaching Turkey tomorrow morning, and tomorrow afternoon we'll be sending truckloads to the southern part of Turkey.
We've seen the pictures in the news. What are you expecting to find when you get there?
So I have seen a lot of footage from the ground, and I've seen a lot of images and first-hand incidents, and people contacting us. Now, what we are expecting is horrific scenes. We've been doing charity work. I myself have been doing charity work for a very long time, and I've never come across incidents. I've never come across these stories, horrific stories from the ground. So what we are expecting is, I don't know how to describe it, but it would just be something out of a movie or something, like, just rubble everywhere. And every single hour we hear about reports of more buildings collapsing because, the structure has been weakened. So buildings around, literally like around them, buildings are just collapsing. So we're expecting a very, very horrific environment when we go there.
And what is it you plan on doing when you get there?
So we have good contacts on the ground with local organizations as well as the Turkish government. So we are expecting to do a couple of things. Firstly, the initial response will be, providing hot meals, providing clean drinking water, providing blankets and shelter. That's the first stage. The second stage will be some of our trained volunteers will help in the search and rescue. So where rubble needs to be safely excavated and people need to be, rescued, some of the volunteers who are trained, they'll be involved in search and rescue. The other team will be involved in just aid distribution, as well as first-hand, distribution with water, food parcels, hot meals, shelter. And because a lot of them have lost their houses, so they need direct aid at the moment.
Well, stay safe and keep in touch with us, won't you?
Thank you, we will do.
Thank you. Next night, 3 weeks from now, Sheffield city centre clean air zone comes into force. Now, it will mean some commercial and goods vehicles have to pay to enter the city centre. There have already been protests against the plan. One councillor has told the BBC air quality in Sheffield is not good enough and this will make a difference. Tom Ingle meets one unhappy business owner.
Stephen Thompson loads up another delivery at Moss Valley Fine Meats. In 3 weeks' time, he faces an extra charge every time he transports bangers in his banger.
We'll have to pay every day, so it'll be 6 days a week, so it's £60 a week, every week of the year.
5 miles away is Sheffield's Inner Ring Road. As soon as Stephen crosses it, he'll be entering the city's new clean air zone. Signs are appearing all over the city ahead of the start date at the end of February. It doesn't apply to private cars, but lorries and buses must pay £50, taxis and vans £10 per day, in a bid to cut pollution.
It's like dealing in blood diamonds. You're taking money and still killing people. Don't do it. If it's really about saving lives, stop everything going in that they don't want to, but don't just do it and take money off people.
No to clean air zones, no to extortionate charges.
Stephen was among those who joined a demonstration outside Sheffield Town Hall this weekend. Passions have been provoked both for and against the clean air zone. Talking to Radio Sheffield, Green Party councillor Douglas Johnson insisted it was necessary.
People are concerned about air quality, especially as they go into work or when they take the kids into school. People are more and more aware of it. It is actually a really important thing. And, people notice it when they've got, respiratory diseases, when they're coughing all the time. People often talk about being able to taste and smell the pollution in the city. And actually it is improving. But it's really important that we do that.
The charges will apply 24/7 on all streets inside the Inner Ring Road. A number of roundabouts won't be included, so drivers can turn around and avoid charges, except at the key Park Square junction. Yesterday, we asked Sheffield City Council for an interview today about the scheme, but no one has been available. Instead, they said, "We want to be clear, the clean air zone will only charge the most polluting vehicles. Through the clean air zone, the council aims to bring nitrogen dioxide levels below legal limits within a year. All funds from the charge will be injected back into the wider clean air programme and running costs." Back on the farm, a final sting at the end of the sausage string. Stephen's business is only 15 minutes drive from the charging boundary, but because he's in Derbyshire, there's no temporary exemption for him, which he could get if he was further away in Rotherham.
They're not helping us at all because we're in Derbyshire and the drive's in Yorkshire, so we don't get any help from the council, and they've just said no, there's no money for us, even though the far side of Rotherham, which is miles and miles and miles away, are getting help. They've just taken national money and ring-fenced it for Sheffield.
The latest landmark on the Sheffield skyline, the small green sea, means a big change for many, and it's just 3 weeks away. Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Now, you may already know this, Sheffield is following after Bradford, which introduced its clean air zone last September. The council says it's too early to analyse air quality data, but has today announced a further £1.1 million of funding to enable local businesses to upgrade vehicles to meet the clean air zone standards. And York became the only city in the country to introduce a voluntary clean air zone in 2020. That means replacing diesel buses with electric ones, which the council says has had a significant impact on air quality in the city.
Most of our residents and lots of our tourists use the buses to cross the city, and they were what was responsible for the majority of the poor air quality. And since we've put this in place, more and more and more, we have improved the air quality across York.
We're going to move on to a story about Yorkshire County Cricket now, because the club has admitted to 4 amended charges in relation to the Azim Rafiq racism investigation. It means the club will no longer take part in a hearing which is scheduled for March, and it could face sanctions. Sally Hurst is here. Sally, bring us up to date with what's been going on.
Yes, well, these charges were triggered by the accusations of Azim Rafiq. You may remember he gave evidence to a group of MPs about the racism he'd experienced during his time at the club. And that led to the ECB, which is cricket's governing body, bringing charges against Yorkshire for bringing the sport into disrepute alongside 7 individuals. Now, today, Yorkshire has admitted 4 amended charges. These include a failure to address the systemic use of racist language and a failure to take adequate action. Now, because they've admitted those charges, they won't now appear at the hearing, which is scheduled for March.
So will that hearing still go ahead?
It will at the moment, but there's only actually one man left standing who's willing to take part in the process, and that's Michael Vaughan. Now, he strongly denies allegations that he made a racist comment to a group of Asian players and wants to clear his name. Meanwhile, Gary Ballance has previously admitted to a charge of using racially discriminative language, so he won't attend. But the other 5 individuals who are left have all pulled out of the process. It is voluntary for them to take part, but they've said they don't want to engage in it. Amongst those is the former head coach, Andrew Gale, for example. So the charges against them will be heard in their absence.
And what's Azim Rafiq had to say on today's news?
He's released a brief statement on Twitter today, thanking Yorkshire and Gary Ballance for, in his words, doing the right thing. And Yorkshire, of course, will be hoping that their actions lift a cloud which has been hanging over the club for 2 years. They could still face sanctions, though, and they could be financial.
Sally, thank you. Let's bring you some news in brief now. A man from Saltaire has been found guilty of murdering his partner in Baildon last year. Lauren Jade Howe was attacked at the couple's home in Tennisway on the 24th of July. She was taken to hospital by police officers where she later died. A juror has found Charlie Booth guilty of murder at Leeds Crown Court. He's due to be sentenced on Thursday. The jury in the trial of a former Yorkshire MP, Jared O'Mara, has been sent home for the night after starting to consider its verdict. The jury retired around lunchtime at Leeds Crown Court. Jared O'Mara, who served as MP for Sheffield Hallam, is accused of submitting fraudulent invoices totalling nearly £30,000, a claim he denies. A 34-year-old woman remains under arrest as inquiries continue into the attempted murder of 3 children in Huddersfield. Police were called by paramedics to a home on Walpole Road just after 8 a.m. yesterday. A 3-month-old baby boy and a 4-year-old girl are said to have non-life-threatening injuries, while a 2-year-old boy is in a serious but stable condition. The woman under arrest also remains in hospital while she's been treated for her injuries. West Yorkshire Police say they are not currently looking for anyone else in connection with the incident. Now, the mother of a 7-year-old girl who was left blind in one eye and unable to walk after a bout of chicken pox developed into a rare disease is wanting to warn other parents to be aware of this really unusual condition. Now, little Ruby has learnt to walk again now, but she's been left with lifelong complications. She and her mum Lauren have been talking to Olivia Richwald.
Chickenpox is seen as a rite of passage for most young children and toddlers, but sometimes it can become serious. This is Ruby, then aged 6, learning to walk again after her chickenpox led to the rare condition, ADEM.
She fell very unwell very quickly with a temperature of 40 and wasn't responding. Every time she tried to walk, she was on the floor. She was still wearing sunglasses and screaming in pain with her eyes.
Kirsty appeared over the ship rail.
Acute disseminated encephalomyelitis, or ADEM, is an uncommon autoimmune condition triggered by an infection or virus. In Ruby's case, it wasn't picked up quickly by her GP surgery or doctors at Leeds General Infirmary. She's been left blind in one eye, with lifelong complications.
This one's blind, yeah. There's days where she can't lift her head off the pillow. There's days where I'm having to carry her to the toilet. We have to carry her up the stairs. It's a big change for Ruby in such a short space of time. How do you manage with your other eye, darling?
Good.
Do you manage good? And this brain disease has triggered migraines for her, which have also set on early onset puberty for her.
She's only 7. It must be quite upsetting to have early onset puberty. How's it affecting her?
Very conscious of getting changed in front of people. The mood swings are really bad, which obviously we knew were going to come at some point in her life, but not this early on. She's started to get belly pains. They've said her periods will come earlier. Ruby's not really understanding the changes that are happening to her body, and I've explained it to her to some depth, but we're just taking it as it comes really with Ruby.
There's a chance the ADEM could relapse if Ruby gets another infection or is vaccinated, but she remains a happy child. Lauren just wants to warn other parents of this rare condition.
This disease is absolutely life-changing, and even though it's very rare, it still happens. We just don't want this happening to any other child, and if you do have any symptoms, please, please, please just go to the hospital and tell them about this disease, and they are well aware of it now.
Dr John Adams, the medical director of the Leeds Teaching Hospitals Trust, said in a statement, "We're very sorry for the experience Ruby had in our care. We've met with Ruby's family to discuss their concerns, and our clinicians have carried out a review and shared the findings. Our teams continue to work with Ruby with her ongoing healthcare for this incredibly rare condition." Olivia Richwald, BBC Look North, Leeds.
We're going to turn to football now, and Hollywood-owned Wrexham are in South Yorkshire tonight for their FA Cup replay against Sheffield United. Deadpool actor Ryan Reynolds co-owns the Welsh club with fellow actor Rob McConhenry. Our sports reporter Mark Ansell is there for us tonight. Hollywood spotter tonight, Mark. Have you seen him at all?
Well, if I'm honest, Amy, I do think that this is probably the closest that you, the closest that I, the closest that most of us here tonight at Bramwell Lane are going to get to Ryan Reynolds. In fact, we don't even know whether he and Rob McElhenney are actually here in South Yorkshire, although I've a sneaking suspicion they are here, or one of them is at least, because I've spotted a documentary TV crew, and that's what they're doing as part of their ownership of Wrexham. We've spoken to the Sheffield United manager, Paul Heckingbottom, and he has said that the circus coming to town, that's his words, not mine, is actually a motivating factor for tonight's game.
When you get in the A-listers and the ownership of Wrexham now and that worldwide appeal, it's unreal, so it can only be a positive. So yeah, from that side of things, it's a really, really good thing. What comes with it and what will be coming to Bramwell Lane is a bit of a circus, we get that. It drives me on, that type of thing. I want to beat him because that 100%.
Now, we've spoken to fans before tonight's match, and we bumped into a lad from Barnsley who has admitted he's not here for the football. He's actually here to star spot and hopefully find Ryan Reynolds.
I'm going to be honest, I'm a massive nerd away from football. I go to cinema all the time, and I'm a big fan of Reynolds. It's really exciting
And why have you come down here tonight?
Hopefully to see Ryan Reynolds, to be honest. You know, I've seen literally all in his movies and I think he's a really funny guy.
Now, among all the stardust in the air, there is actually a football match on tonight. Sheffield United in the Championship, second in the Championship against fifth tier Wrexham. Let's have a chat to Carl Asaba, who's from BBC Radio Sheffield. He's a co-commentator. He's also a former Blades forward. Now, Carl, do you think Sheffield United will get the job done against Wrexham tonight?
Yeah, Wrexham put on a great show a couple of weeks ago. It was a big scare for us all. So we're back at Bramall Lane now, and I'm confident that the Blades will put on a good show. You know, there's going to be a number of changes. Well, there's 5 changes because their main priority is going up in the Championship, but the manager's still fielding a very strong team.
Now, you mentioned it there, promotion to the Premier League. That's the aim for this season, of course, and the Blades are 10 points clear into those automatic places. Do you think the Blades are going back to the Premier League?
Well, they can only do what they've done. You know, it's incredible what they've done. They've got a game in hand, but no one's losing focus. You know, there's still a lot of football to be played. There's a lot of factors that can affect this with injuries and form. So, you know, the manager's well aware of this. He's rotating the squad to try and freshen legs up and keep legs fresh for the weekend. And, you know, I'm really excited to watch them.
And what about this rumoured takeover of Sheffield United by a Nigerian businessman? Is that good news for the Blades?
Well, it's just another distraction. You know, we've been littered with distractions off the pitch. You've got the embargo, you've got this takeover, which is taking a lot of time, and there's a lot of negative press. And for me, I'm really sorry that it's distracting the great work that the manager and the players are doing. You know, people are talking about that, not that we're 10 points clear of third with a game in hand. So it's distracting, but nothing simple for the Blades.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Carl. And the winners tonight of Wrexham versus Sheffield United here at Bramall Lane will play Spurs, Premier League Spurs, in the 5th round. Now, after Leeds United sacked Jesse Marsh yesterday, Leeds under-21 head coach Michael Skubala says the Whites' tactics will be virtually the same against Manchester United as if Marsh was in the dugout. Skubala, along with assistant head coach Chris Armas and development coach Paco Gallardo, will lead the team at Old Trafford tomorrow night. Skubala admits it's a tight turnaround from March's departure yesterday.
We've got 24 hours, so you know we've got one session this afternoon that we've prepared with the players. So some things will have to be the same because there's no point, you know, throwing the baby out the bathwater in terms of changes. But I think a few little tweaks in maybe how we want to play and maybe a few differences you might see. But fundamentally, we need to make sure that the players understand the match plan and the game plan that we want to deliver.
Amy, it's just over 45 minutes until kick-off. I'm going to go and do some more star spotting, see if I can find the man, Ryan Reynolds.
If you do, give me a shout. Thanks, Mark. Now, if I said to you, twiddle-muff, do you know what that means? Well, our reporter Jacob Tomlinson has the answer. He's been to meet a 200-strong group of people in Leeds who make them. The group's name is Hookers and Clickers. Don't worry, it'll all become very clear.
Meet the women that call themselves hookers and clickers. And no, it's not what you're thinking.
A hooker is somebody who uses a hook to crochet, and a clicker is the sound of the needles when they are knitting. Hookers and Clickers Do It for Charity is a Facebook page and an in-person group.
The women help local hospitals and hospices in the area by knitting all sorts of different things, one of which is a twiddle muff.
A twiddle muff is it's a long knitted or crocheted tube that you can put your hands into, except it's got twiddles sewn on around the outside and quite often on the inside.
The idea is simple. The person using the twiddle muff simply puts their hands inside and they can play with the bells and ribbons that are attached to it. Now, the purpose isn't just to keep people's minds busy, but it also really helps reduce anxiety. It stops patients from damaging their skin or playing with medical wires. And they're also really comfy.
In fact, Elaine's got one here. She's put some beads on, some pearls on. Playing with the twiddles just calms people down, just reduces anxiety, gives them something else to concentrate on.
The group isn't just a great help to its recipients, but for a lot of the members, it's also a place to belong.
We have over 200 ladies from the top of the country to the bottom of the country, who join us on Facebook to make for the various charities. People have lost husbands and found it difficult. People have retired and thought, you know, what's my place in life now? What do I do? We have people with disabilities who have felt useful again, and it gives them something to be proud of. So they'll come back. It gives them somewhere to belong. You know, they belong to, oh yeah, I'm a hooker, I'm a clicker, you know, and that's a conversation of in itself. I can't imagine my life without this group, without these ladies, and without making these things to be able to pass on to other people and make such a difference.
For these women, it's a great example of how it's the simple ideas that are often the best. Jacob Tomlinson, BBC Look North.
Oh, did you know what a twiddle muff was?
No, and I was going to ask. I'm not even going there. Can I just show you? I'm not even going to show you any pictures because we've got no time. So I'll get on with the forecast because it's looking very nice. Lots of blue sky. It was disappointingly cloudy across North and West Yorkshire today, but that will change tomorrow. That week front goes through Wednesday night. It leaves a lot of sunshine for Thursday and Friday, and the weekend is looking mostly fine with variable cloud, but there will be some sunshine around at times. Now, that was the nuisance cloud across West and North Yorkshire. If you're living in South Yorkshire, you'll wonder what I'm talking about because it's been glorious in Sheffield and Rotherham today, as it has across Chesterfield. So then we'll keep that northwest cloud split for a time, but even this cloud that's going to float southwards will break up. We might see some mist and fog patches across certainly southern parts, a slight frost, 0 to -2, I think the lowest temperature values tonight. So tomorrow's high water times at Scarborough at 5:45, Bridlington at 7 minutes past 6. So a bit of fog first thing, that will clear. And then really it looks as though we're going to see a lot of blue sky on Wednesday, mainly sunny skies for most parts of the region. Just a moderate southwest wind to come. We'll see temperatures very close to average, perhaps a shade above. In Leeds, 9 Celsius, that's 48 Fahrenheit. Thursday, a lot of sunshine, some patchy cloud in the west. Friday and the weekend looks quite breezy, but also quite mild. Variable cloud, some sunshine. It does look set to turn more unsettled as we head through next week. And Amy, that's the forecast tonight.
I thought you were going to tell us what twiddle muff was, but I'm afraid we've run out of time.
Thank goodness for that.
Good night.